Yo, what's going on, guys? I wanted to make a quick in-progress video on the build that I'm currently playing in the Delve League. This isn't going to be an in-depth video guide, but just more of a, like I said, in-progress video of what I'm currently doing, and kind of what my plans are for the character. So this is an Elementalist based around the new revamped Static Strike. So let's quickly go over what the new Static Strike does and how it works. So with this change to Static Strike, basically how it works is when you hit an enemy, you're going to gain a buff. And while you have that buff, you're going to frequently hit a number of nearby enemies with beams, dealing attack damage, which will be higher if the beams strike while you're moving. So this character is going to play pretty similarly to a Blade Vortex Elementalist. The majority of the time, you're just going to get one stack of the buff, and then you're just going to run around killing everything, letting the Static Strike hit enemies to then proc your Impulses, and then your Heralds. The initial hit component of Static Strike seems to be able to do some pretty considerable single target damage. From what I've path of building out, the initial hit seemed to be able to do over 1 million Shaper DPS, single target. And that's just with the initial hit. Then you factor in the beam doing another 300 to 400k or so. Now that's with extremely good gear. Be definitely in game before you're doing that kind of damage, but it does have some potential. Something else to keep in mind too is that Static Strike does alternate weapons. Next up, let's take a look at the gear. So currently I'm running a dual claw setup with a touch of anguish, mainly for the free chain from this. That way we don't have to run the chain gem. One of the biggest downsides of Touch of Anguish is that critical strikes do not always freeze. So I'm actually running a non-crit version of the build with pretty high chance to freeze and a lot of cold damage. We've got Whirling Blades, faster attacks, and Fortify for movement. Currently I'm running a Shaper Claw. This one's really pretty bad. You're going to want one with pretty high physical damage because it does alternate between the two weapons. And then you want a high attack speed roll. At running an Elementalist, you're not going to get a ton of attack speed. I think a offhand with high attack speed is pretty important to get around the map quickly. Potentially you could run double Touch of Anguish for 2 chains, but with Impulsa and all of the Herald damage, I don't think that's necessary. I tried to run the build without Touch of Anguish with no chain whatsoever, and it just didn't feel good. It feels much better with at least 1 chain. And then for the chest piece, it's an Impulsa again. Now these are going to be pretty expensive, probably the majority of the league, but they should go down in price as the league goes on. So we've got the Static Strike, which Static Strike already converts 60% of physical damage to lightning. And then we're running physical to lightning to convert it all to lightning. And then elemental damage with attacks, hypothermia, since we're chilling all the time with Elementalist. And then at the moment I've got Ice Bite in here. This should really be a red socket, and it would be melee physical more than likely in that spot. In an ideal world, the 6th socket would probably be either Lightning Pin or Ruthless, something like that. Now the most important thing about the helmet, in my opinion, is just getting this lab enchant. 45% increased Static Strike duration. The build feels extremely bad to play if you don't have any skill effect duration whatsoever. So if you don't have this lab enchant, I'd recommend getting skill effect duration on the tree somewhere. And it's pretty easy to get to, and we'll go over the tree here in just a minute. And then the helm, we've got Enfeeble linked with Curse on Hit, Herald of Thunder, and Herald of Ice. And you could obviously go for any damage curse as well if you want to. For the Amulet, I've just got a physical damage to attacks, life, lightning, res, cold damage to attacks. Amulet, this thing really isn't very good. For the rings, we've got physical damage to attacks, accuracy, life, wed, and then all res. They're pretty close to the same on both rings. You definitely want to get accuracy on the rings. With the current tree that I'm running, there's not a ton of accuracy that we're getting. And then obviously you can always get accuracy on the helmet and the amulet as well. It's going to be a little bit more pricey that way. Boots, standard, move speed, reses, life. We've got cast when damage taken, immortal call, increased duration, summon lightning golem here. I like the lightning golem for the extra attack speed, but you can definitely go with ice golem for the accuracy as well. Stygian Vice for the belt, pretty standard life, reses, Bissell socket, gloves. Now here I really like attack speed again because we're not getting a ton of attack speed. And then life, reses, physical damage if you can get it. Something that I may do at some point is try to get some shaped gloves with faster attacks and then have a 5-link War Chief totem set up here. Currently I've got War Chief's Totem set up with faster attacks, hypothermia, physical to lightning, and Ancestral War Chief now. Again, this isn't ideal setup, this is just the current colors that I have. We definitely want some melee physical in there, and some other things at some point in time. And then rounding out the rest of the gems, we've got Blood Rage, which is mostly for the attack speed. Phase Run, which the way that Phase Run works currently, you can actually hit something with your static strike, get the buff, and then hit Phase Run and not lose the buff, so you'll be able to run around and still chain your lightning from static strike while you're in Phase Run. But it has kind of some funky synergy going on with Touch of Anguish, because the way this works is you only get your chain when you're at maximum frenzy charges, but Phase Run uses your frenzy charges to extend the duration. So I don't like to use it, but it's something that you can do if you want. And then we've got Herald of Ash as our third Herald. For flasks, we've got a Life Flask with Remove Bleeding, an Adziri's Promise, an Onslaught Flask with Freeze Removal, a Lion's Roar, and then a Quicksilver Flask with Curse Removal. This Quicksilver Flask could easily be a Taste of Hate if you've got the money for it. As far as the Bissell Jewels go, I'm currently running, the majority of my jewels look something like this. You know, some physical damage and element, and then life. Pure physical damage jewels would probably be the best. I believe that's what it looked like in Path of Building, but those are a little bit more expensive and harder to find. At some point in time, once I get my resists and life completely worked out, I'll probably go for a Essence Worm with a Hatred or a Gem. Alright, next up, let's take a look at the passive points. So, for the Ascendancy, first you're going to go into Shaper of Desolation and then into Beacon of Ruin. That way we're always shocking and always chilling. Then you're going to go Pendulum of Destruction into Mastermind of Discord for the Elemental Penetration, and then being able to run 3 Heralds with hardly any mana reserved. And again, at some point, an Essence Worm could probably be fit into the build. So you're going to go over to the right side of the tree first, over this way, into Arcing Blows. I don't have Crackling Speed yet, but at some point I probably will. Down this way, Claw of the Falcon is still fine, even though we're not crit for the accuracy and physical damage to claws. Go down this way into Cold-Hearted Calculation, Elemental Focus, Trickery, down to Coordination for the attack speed. Going to come down to Fangs of the Viper. You don't necessarily need this, but you're probably going to need the dex. I even have this dex node at the moment. Then you're going to come down to the Claw Wheel. So you're going to basically just stay away from the crit chance, crit multi nodes on this wheel, and then straight down into Acro, Phase Acro. Now, Acro, Phase Acro isn't necessary, but it does make the build feel a lot tankier. And then on this side of the tree, you're going to get Melding, and then the Jewel Socket as well. You can definitely come this way, and then come down this way and go to Force of Nature, and then into this wheel here with all this life and evasion and a little bit of global physical damage. If you're over here, it's possible to go up to Claws of the Pride as well. It's kind of like this setup right here with Claws of the Falcon. It's decent, but you're missing out on the crit and crit multi in this setup. And again, I'm running non-crit, but it's not like you can't run crit. Crit is, I'm sure, better overall. It's just going to be much more expensive. So from there, you're going to come over to Heart and Soul, get these life and mana nodes, up through the Area of Effect, getting Alchemist, and then over this way, getting these life nodes here, and down into Elemental Overload. I'd probably go straight to Elemental Overload before I get all this stuff up here, just because of how strong it is. Then you can come down into the Templar area for Retribution, and then into Divine Fervor and Holy Dominion, down through these life nodes, and then over into Celestial Punishment and Celestial Judgment. And then you're going to grab the life here and the Jewel Socket here. Now at some point, I definitely want to get this Jewel Socket, and again, Crackling Speed, mainly for more shock effect than anything else. But that's really about it. It's a pretty simple tree. Now again, this is just how I built it. You could build it a lot of different ways. You could sacrifice a good bit of this and come all the way down into Constitution and get this entire wheel, and even come down into Berserking to get more attack speed if you wanted to. Well, that'll about wrap it up, guys. Keep in mind, again, this is a work in progress, so some of this stuff may change, and I might change my mind on some things and find some stuff that I like better than what I'm currently running. But anyways, thank you guys very much for watching, as always, and I will see you next time.